What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tesla Geek Show. I am Anwar Beck.
And I'm Eli, and on this week's episode of the Tesla Geek Show, we're at Nikola Motors Part 2, and we have a very special guest to join us coming up next.
This week's episode of the Tesla Geek Show is sponsored by Matt Home from the Home team in Austin. You guys have heard the big news that Tesla might be moving their headquarters to Austin, Texas. So if you need the best realtor in Austin, definitely get in touch with Matt Home. He can be reached on his website at Home Team Austin. Home is spelled H-O-L-M, or you can call him directly at 512-769-1695, or just hit him up on his email, matt@mattsellsaustin.com. Hopefully Tesla will be making their headquarters in Austin, Texas.
So I am so excited to welcome our special guest for this show. This is the man himself, the creator and founder of the FrunkPuppy movement, the Earl of FrunkPuppy. Earl, welcome for the first time to the Tesla Geek Show.
I am honored to be here. Thanks for having me. What a wonderful thing. It's finally nice to talk to both of you finally online. I know we missed each other's Cybertruck event, but thank you. It's great to be here.
Earl, I gotta say, we absolutely love what you've done with FrunkPuppy. The Norm memes are hilarious. You see Norms there in the background behind you. So we love all the positivity and all the things that you stand for, and we look forward to having you back to talk more about that movement at a future date. But today, we're here to talk about Nikola Motors, something we've all been very active talking about online. And you know what? Let's start it off by kicking it off with you. What caught your attention initially and caused you to start being the Spitfire machine you've been commenting on this?
Yeah, well, I like the trucks. I think they look awesome. I was pretty much a fan of Nikola, but I didn't pay too much attention to them. But there was this low-grade buzzing in the background of Twitter of a few people pointing some things out. And some people that I respected. So I ended up just going back and watching some videos, like in Trevor's own words. And I just got baffled and lost. I don't know what the plan is, and I got confused. And unfortunately, the more I dug around, just the more confused I got. And since that time, I've noticed people coming out with some different videos and content. So I started to do the same thing, just to kind of start the discussion online. But hey, I'm all for it. You know, I'm happy to support new EV companies and clean energy. I get all that part, but I also think it's important for us not to turn our brains off. And you know, if there's some things that are a little bit squirrely in the community, we should probably at least talk about them. And that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, and by the way, it's also wildly entertaining. So that's probably the most important part.
The entertainment value definitely helps. So what you spoke of, if you went back and watched some videos, and you've been very active in showing some of those clips. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the videos so we can look at this situation from the words of Trevor himself. Let me share my screen here. And 3, 2, 1.
The powertrain of the truck, whether it's hydrogen, you can see some of the powertrain of the truck, whether it's hydrogen or electric, is identical. It's only how you charge it. The hydrogen fuel cell charges the batteries, or the grid charges the batteries. They're literally identical. So going into Europe, we'll have essentially 4 options. You can order it with hydrogen as the hydrogen electric version. You can order it as a 500 kilowatt hour. You can order it as a 750 kilowatt hour. Or you can order it as a 1,000 kilowatt hour, which is a 1 megawatt hour battery pack.
All right, what did I just watch?
Yeah, so this is one of the first things that I saw, and it was news to me, so I didn't know much about them. But here he's talking about you can have a hydrogen truck, you can have a 500 kilowatt hour battery, 1,000 kilowatt hour battery, and I just started to do the math in my head and thinking about Tesla and prices and all those different powertrains and what that means. And it was news to me too. I didn't know they were going to make things. And in a later video, he talks about how the batteries are different in the hydrogen cars and then the electric cars. And it just quickly starts to snowball into numerous types of options that all of which seem like they would take a lot of R&D, a lot of background.
And I saw something interesting as well. He mentions that there's a hydrogen and electric option, but it didn't suggest necessarily what the battery size was going to be on that hydrogen electric option. Did I miss something? Because it didn't sound like they were specific about that at all.
I haven't found that either.
Which kind of begs the question, because like, are they going to make one battery variant with the hydrogen or 3, which very quickly becomes into you having 6 different models, variations of vehicle for a single SKU?
Yes. And I don't think many people are starting to do the math on all those options, all the permutations that are going to be available.
All right, let's look at another clip that Alex has posted. And it's talking about how, Nikola and Trevor have looked at using their partnerships to gain credibility in the market. And by the way, this has to do with when Ryder, one of their longtime partners, when the relationship between Nikola and Ryder ended, this kind of starts talking about what happened and the spin provided by Trevor on what the backstory was there. So I'm going to play this clip.
I'm beyond grateful and excited. We signed an agreement that was for the entire United States, Canada, and parts of Mexico with Ryder Systems, Inc. And I'm extremely proud to be able to have that. That shows you a little bit about how incredible our product is. This is really incredible. I'm really proud of it. So, okay, you have this big service network now. You got one of the greatest brands in America, but none of this would be possible without our partners that are so incredibly awesome. Some of our partners that I want to go over are, first and foremost, I want to bring up the Ryder crew. Without them, we couldn't do it. If Ryder, can you come on up here?
Yeah, Ryder was interesting because, Ryder was a great partner. They helped us get to where we were today. And we sat down with Ryder and we're like, holy shit. Like, they didn't realize us that we didn't, at that time, when we signed the deal with them, we didn't have an Iveco. We didn't have a group to help us get to full speed that fast. We all thought we had another 3 years to really think about how to make this, everything kind of go smoothly. With everything coming down next year, we sat down and they're like, hey, Trevor, look, you guys can't do anything with hydrogen outside of us, and we can't do anything with hydrogen outside of you. And it's going to be really hard to have that kind of capital intensive budget being put on one company for the whole country. I mean, it's just monumental. And so we all just agreed that the best thing we could do is allow each other to fully work outside of that agreement to where we're no longer bound by exclusivity.
I'm not going to lie, this sounds like a divorce situation. We are no longer bound by exclusivity. I don't even know where to begin on this, guys. Anwar Beck, what did I just watch?
It's hard to put into words, dude. Earl, what do you think?
It hurts my brain. None of it makes any sense. All the time frames are off. The years are off. He contradicts what he said earlier. None of it makes any sense. I think this is something that is very pertinent. A lot of people are upset and they're saying, well, you're being just like the Tesla bears here and creating stories. But what people don't understand is, like, creating a story is saying that Elon killed Grimes, right? Like, that's like making things up. People are posting just videos of Trevor talking and then saying none of it makes any sense. That's not like FUD. That's not dishonest. This is what he said. You're just presenting it to people. This is a perfect example of that. Make sense of this for me. I can't. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, so apparently they mutually agreed to separate ways, which, by the way, every time anyone's ever been in a breakup, it's like when you say it was mutual, it means they left you. We know how this goes. Look, we've all told that. I've told that tale. I get it. But then when they're talking about this partnership and how important it was and how, like, you know, it was too much investment for them, they couldn't even support it. A partnership that involves maintenance and warranties only ever costs your partner anything if you ever ship a vehicle. It was a contract on, it was effectively in paper and a name only, because Nikola never delivered a product to utilize Ryder's services. It was literally just capitalizing on Ryder's brand. Is there anything I'm missing here?
I don't know. I also like that he says he's very proud of it and we can't do it without them. And then very soon after, they're doing it without them. So.
That's what I found funny too.
It's very ominous.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So let's jump into something that I think is actually pretty, it's actually why I have the background behind me that I do, which is the Nikola Motors truck kind of disintegrating. I put out a post a couple days ago about Theranos wants their Vapor back, because there's been a lot of criticisms, and not just by people on social media, by people in the industry, by financial experts, by technical experts, suggesting that Nikola Motors to date may actually be Vaporware. And in fact, there were some comments to this extent that resulted in Trevor threatening to sue Bloomberg. But before we go into that, let's look at one of the videos you posted, Earl, that was from the unveiling back in 2016 of the Nikola One.
What's awesome about tonight is all about now. Now we use our imagination. Yeah, it's right. I mean, our hydrogen is created with zero emissions from beginning to end. So we only use wind, solar, or hydrogen. The entry to the cab, although we have the stairs there, in the production these handles actually pop out and allows you to have a 4-point entrance into the cab. So that means 2 hands and 2 feet. Notice that there's only 1 door on this truck. In the production, there will be 2. There will be 1 on each side. The refrigerator right now is about a 12 cubic square foot refrigerator. It's going to be moved down below, essentially into underneath the bed. A little bit of a lack of storage inside of the truck. That's okay. Our interior team did not have enough time to get that done. We pulled this off in it was almost an impossible feat in order to build this truck. We didn't have enough time to do that. You'll notice back in the back, you see these massive motor gearboxes. They are incredible. It's the only ones like it in the world. There's no other motor gearboxes like it. They're a full-on locomotive style. It's a dual speed, but a single between low and high. So there's only 2 speeds on that motor gearbox. In production, that motor gearbox will be about 50% of that size. Once again, the cost of reducing it would have been exponentially more expensive. So we built it to want to improve it, and then in production, we're going to shrink it. We'll shrink those motor gearboxes down about 50%.
What?
I was so blown away by this clip, and there's more, but that's just like some of my favorite parts about it. But, you know, this is the prototype in 16 that's supposed to be running and everything, right, up to speed. And he goes on to say that we've added stairs. It's missing a door. There's a fridge in the wrong place. There's giant motor gear locomotive boxes that need to be shrunken. And there's no storage space, but we ran out of time. And he keeps saying that we just ran out of time. And it was shocking to me. Yeah, just kind of putting that all together. And maybe my favorite part is when he says we only use clean energy to make our hydrogens. We use sources such as solar, wind, and hydrogen. Okay.
And that's almost like what they're betting on, right? That like they just need like free energy. They need a perpetual motion machine to make the financials of this make sense. So there's another clip here I'm going to share from Whole Mars blog that actually includes even more of this unveiling. And this is getting closer to what happened recently, just a couple days ago, where Trevor had kind of a meltdown going after Ed Ludlow, journalist at Bloomberg. So let me share my screen before we play this video, because this tweet is worth a read. Today, Nikola Motors announced they will sue Bloomberg journalist Ed Ludlow for libel. You can watch the clip that Ed wrote his story about. He interviewed Trevor Milton this morning. Trevor is also suing Tesla. What do you think? Did Ed libel Trevor? So we're going to show you the clip, and then we're going to see how Trevor reacted.
So it's my joy to be able to tell you a little bit about the Nikola 2. Here's the actual rendering of what it's going to look like. And after you see this truck come to life here tonight, you guys will understand that what we show you, we can actually deliver on. And that's the neatest part about Nikola. It's right there. It's good. Gives you a couple snapshots. This is actually in our truck right now. You'll be able to see it when you get in the truck later tonight. You'll see it up on the screens. They're fully functioning screens. Really incredible. We will have a chain on the seats to prevent people from coming in just for the safety. I don't want someone to end up doing something and driving this truck off the stage. So it's a little expensive, okay? You could probably buy a jet with what it costs to build this thing. So we're going to try to keep people from driving off. But this thing fully functions and works, which is really incredible. This will take a few years to roll out. This is not like an overnight thing. This will take testing. It'll take work. It'll take great partners that we have. But soon we'll be passing billions of dollars of freight through our systems. But mainly what I want to do is I want to tell you a little bit about the Nikola ones. And this is what everyone came for. They came from all over the world. I really want you to look at that truck. The cab itself, like I said, you'll be able to go inside. We have a little chain on the front to keep people from hitting the controls because they do work. But you will be able to see all the screens actually lit up and working, which is awesome. And this truck will come to market, I can promise you that. For every doubter out there that said that there's no way this is true. How can that be possible? We've done it. It's my pleasure to actually let you guys enjoy the night, see the truck, know it's real, touch it, feel how sturdy it is. You're going to see that this is a real truck. This is not a pusher. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So guys, it's real. I mean, it's really, really real.
It's really, I promise, really, it's real.
One thing it's not, no one has asked, but one thing it's not a pusher. In case you were wondering about that, I'm just going to get that out there.
So it's definitely not a pusher. I mean, he said that. I mean, there was no uncertainty. This was emphatic. This is definitely not a pusher.
Yep.
So let's fast forward to the interview with Bloomberg and then the subsequent piece that came out after that. And I'm going to show my screen here. So I don't have the article pulled up, but Bloomberg put out an article and basically said that they had sources, multiple sources that claimed inside the company that what Trevor and Nikola pushed out on stage was not operational. It was a completely non-working. It was a pusher. It didn't have motors and numerous other components that was required to the vehicle to operate. So Trevor went on full meltdown mode and put out a tweet saying he just sent this to the Bloomberg team. He will basically that he's going to expose Ed Luddow for who he is. And they wrote this long letter that's, to be honest, guys, completely meaningless. The fact that your legal team sent somebody a letter doesn't actually carry any teeth.
It's also predated before the interview came out, but okay.
See, that is actually a really big deal. The letter was initially letterheaded on June 16th about an article on June 17th.
I mean, who's proofreading over there? That's
Probably no one. And again, like, here's the thing, too. Legal experts are exceptionally good at attention to detail and language because law is nothing more than the words that they are written in. So you're telling me the fact that if someone were to try to tell me that a lawyer would have missed a mistake like this loses you your job. Literally, you make one mistake like this, you're out of a job.
Earl, so on our first part one of our Nikola evaluation, I compared Trevor to Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. I was like, we have our own. I mean, it's just like reeking of that, right? He's like, I promise this works, whatever. They built up this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the valuations company kept going up for the next year. You know, like.
Well, and here's the thing that it would have been fine if it didn't work on stage. Like Tesla puts mules out all the time, right? They'll have working prototypes, but then they'll just have cars out there that don't run. But to bring it out in the
Cybertruck, they had both. Right? They had the mule that was a clay model, and they had the one that drove.
Fine. That's totally fine. And then even if they didn't have one that worked, that's totally fine. But I don't think you should probably be talking about putting chains on the seats that it runs if that's potentially not the case. You know, that's different. That's a different situation. But hey, I guess we'll wait for those tapes. I'm sure it'll all get cleared up
when the SEC investigation happens. All right, so let me go back to the full response too. And by the way, I'd like to highlight that Trevor never actually addressed this complaint. And that's Fred Lambert, our favorite Fred Lambert of Electric, commented in and said, are you able to share specifically what was inaccurate in the article? The article said the prototype wasn't drivable, and you said it was at the event. You seem to have admitted that it didn't have a motor. Now are you claiming that it had a motor? By the way, there was no response after this.
I mean, that is a great question by Fred. I don't see where the problem is.
Look, here's all you need to know, and I'm going to share it with you in the words of Trevor himself.
All real video of the truck. There's no renderings there. This is the real truck. This is a real fuel cell. This is the real battery, the real powertrain, everything in it. 800 volts of real.
Trevor, here's what you're missing, bro. It's 800 volts of real.
Of real. It's real.
It's real.
It's pretty amazing to stumble over that so many times. Who's he convincing? I don't know.
Himself, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, he's trying to. 800 volts of real bullshit.
So there's another clip I'm going to show, because as we go through this guy and the conversation comes out about him, and I think Anwar Beck was to say that this is the Theranos of the EV community, and everybody else has kind of jumped on, and somebody aired a clip. I think it was Alex as well. Shoot, where'd it go? Yep, it was Alex. And it's a really amazing side-by-side. You know what? I'm going to let the video just speak for itself.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I have to tell you, in all my years, I can't recall a private company that I have to candidly, many have never heard of, getting this kind of attention and scrutiny. What do you think's going on here?
This is what happens when you work to change things. And first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world. And I have to say, I personally was shocked to see that the Journal would publish something like this when we had sent them over 1,000 pages of documentation demonstrating that the statements in their piece were false.
What is it about you and Nikola that has got, especially the Tesla fanboys, off their rockers?
Hey, look, man, when you, when you change everything, when you completely disrupt something that's been established for a while, it sends people into a frenzy. So we've disrupted two things. We've disrupted the automotive world, the trucking world. Like, they never thought it was going to happen. They never thought we were going to actually do it. I'm an open book, and it's really fun.
I don't have many secrets.
All right, I'm going to let you guys react. But before we do, I just want to highlight something that they both said. They talked about that they were these major disruptors. And you hear Nikola or Trevor claim that, they've disrupted the automotive world. Don't you have to ship a product first?
Yes, it would seem that way. That would be my guess. I think not many things get disrupted prior to a product coming out.
But yeah, so what was your guys' reaction to that clip? Because, I don't know about you guys, but that gave me chills.
It's comical. I mean, you can't write this stuff, right? I mean, I just kept sitting here thinking, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, like what more do people need, that at least to be a little bit, to question some things here. Especially like you said, Eli, where's the disruption? We've had presentations, we have a stock, but the product's a few years out. So, and hydrogen's been on its way for a long time. So, powering cars with hydrogen, Toyota's doing it right now. So I don't know. I guess because it's going to be a truck. Right?
Anwar Beck, what do you think? Why do you think it is that people are giving this thing the just most obscene benefit of the doubt, when Tesla, it was met with nothing but skepticism?
Yeah, so to me, this fanfare with Nikola is, we know this, not only Tesla Q community, but there are a lot of people that, number one, missed the boat on Tesla, or they think they missed the boat on the growth of the company. So I think people are wishing and hoping that this is the next Tesla, right? It's kind of like, that's why they want to believe anything, even though it's Vaporware, even though this guy, Trevor Milton, is the embodiment of what Tesla Q thinks. There's a point in time, do y'all remember when people were like, these cars don't even exist? I mean, like the most crazy statements. And Nikola and Trevor, he's that. He's everything that, like, maybe this will help Tesla in the long run. Maybe those shorts can, like, stop paying attention to Tesla and move over to another stock.
I think so.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
I really think it's that, dude. I think they think that, like, hey, I missed the boat on Tesla, so I don't want to miss the boat on this other thing. And this is where, like, I hope, like, for those of you guys that have been listening to our podcast for the past year, like, yes, we're Tesla fanboys, but we love the whole EV movement. We're, like we said before, we're massive fans of a lot of other companies besides Tesla. Earl said it as well. We want people to succeed. We want this industry, like, we're all about sustainability. So I feel bad, like, sitting here kind of shitting on Nikola and Trevor, but it's kind of like holding people accountable and just, we got to speak the truth, I feel like.
Yeah, and there's harm here. So, if the let's say the situation goes south and then it turns out that there's a problem with the company, right? This just makes it more of an uphill battle for the next EV startup, because it's gonna call in additional scrutiny, in my opinion, because people are missing this right now, and there's not a lot of public scrutiny in the moment. It's changing, but I think that's my worry.
Yeah, I totally agree, man.
I completely agree. And although we are definitely not certified financial advisors, we don't give specific financial advice. If you need specific financial advice, talk to a certified financial advisor. As people who are active in this community and are seeing smoke, and it's pretty clear that there's fire, honestly, we feel like we owe it to you guys as the audience and you as the community who don't follow all of this quite as closely as we do. Like, we live and breathe this stuff. Like, we follow all of this happening in real time. We feel it's our responsibility that when we see things happening, that we call it out. And that actually leads me to another thing that happened today from Kyle Field of Clean Technica. And he started asking some technical questions of Trevor Milton. And it's that, okay, I've been digging into Nikola Motor, and I have a few questions for Trevor. First, why would a major transport buy fuel cell vehicles for long haul if cost is at parity with diesel and fuel that's 3x as expensive as battery electric trucks? And he used a source.
Fair question.
Completely fair question. And he sourced a graph from ARK Invest that was based upon Nikola's investor presentation in 2020. Kyle asked a few more questions, and then this is where it gets wildly entertaining. Trevor responds, "This chart isn't accurate with our business model. We are near equal to BEV on cost with H2 and nearly 10,000 pounds lighter, which is why AB ordered 800 million worth of leases from us over our and other BEV options. I've covered this in previous tweets. People don't want to accept it." Kyle Field, it's straight off page 18 of your April 2020 investor presentation. Granted, these are only for FCEV, and you won't produce hydrogen vehicles for another 3 years. It's straight off your own presentation.
You really can't make this stuff up.
I didn't notice this. It's sourced in the original tweet too. You just read it. It's right there.
I don't even know what to do here.
I don't know what to say. He should know that. I mean, it wasn't like a presentation from 2012. This is April of this year. It's June. It's shocking to me. I don't know.
So where do we go from here, guys? Like, what's next?
Well, here's my advice. I mean, I think that you need to realize that people are a little shook about this company for a reason. We're not just bashing it for, we're not a bunch of short sellers. We're not trying to just, we only want Teslas. I'd like all EV companies to succeed.
I do want to highlight, I don't think any of us in this call have any stock interest in this company. Is that correct?
No.
Yep, I don't either. Which, by the way, I actually looked at shorting them. The market doesn't believe their use case so much that the shorts are so unbelievably expensive. The stock would have to fall like 80% to be in the money, which is the only reason, by the way, I don't have a short position. It was just too expensive.
Wow.
So, no, even I don't have one. Go on.
Yeah, and But what I would tell people is that at least pause on this, and you don't have to look at my content. You don't have to look at any of our content. Go and watch the presentations yourself. That's what did it for me. I went back and watched them roll things out, and you have some questions. And to this day, I still don't understand kind of what the model is. You probably talked about this last week, but the Badger in November, they said they weren't going to make it, and now they're making it, taking reservations, but they're going to present it in December with very little details. And I just can't put it to, but that's going to be electric. I don't know. So anyway.
Is it the Badger? What's the ATV vehicle that they were touting? What was that one called again?
I don't know, but isn't that 80 grand and it goes 150 miles now with a 300 kilowatt power bus?
Something like that. It's like 150 kilowatt hour battery pack or something, or maybe it is 200. Like it just doesn't make it doesn't compute like this. I think this is why all three of us are really baffled by. We're just, we follow Tesla very closely. I think when Tesla went public and IPO, they'd already made like over 1,000 Roadsters. I mean, they were like gearing up. They needed capital to really do that ramp for Model S more than anything. But like, it was a real company, at least, they delivered product. They've had revenue. This is all, yeah.
But there was a coherent, fairly simple plan, right? The master plan, like we're going to do this Roadster. Then the Model S is going to come out, right? We're going to try to make more, drop prices, build it in Fremont. Like there was a coherent, I could tell that to somebody easily. This is the plan for Tesla. Whether you believe it or not, that's a different chapter. That's fine. Yeah, it's really hard to start a car company. They did almost fail. Basically, Elon has said that. Like, it's a hard road. I mean, goes without saying. But I don't know what they're trying to do. And then when you dig into the numbers, like Alex was doing, well, hydrogen costs this, or you're putting it at parity with this. And they don't really answer those things. It's just, well, I've already addressed that, and people won't believe it.
And I didn't highlight the tweets, but one of the things that he did, which was a classic, by the way, was a classic concern for pump and dump schemes and for companies that are financial frauds, is FINRA actually gives guidance on what to look out for. And there's a couple things that they give guidance on. One, they give guidance on companies that do reverse mergers to listings, because that is a classic move by companies who are trying to hide from financial scrutiny, which, by the way, is exactly what they did. But one of the other things to look out for is companies that claim like major breakthroughs in technology without any proof. And on Twitter, Trevor has claimed that they've already been able to get hydrogen down to $4 per kilogram, and they're about to hit $3. Well, that is like half as cheap or less than the leading producers of hydrogen are today. And that includes a company like Toyota, who actually has a decent number of fuel cell vehicles out there and has every incentive in the world to be able to produce cheap hydrogen. And this flies in the face of all research that says by 2025 is when the experts estimate that hydrogen will reach parity with gasoline, not even electric, just parity with gasoline. So they're claiming technological advancements. By the way, if Nikola had actually figured out a way to produce hydrogen for that cheap, they may be worth their current market cap for that alone. Right? But you don't see them being like, all right, let us give a presentation and talking to you about our amazing new patented hydrogen technology. It's just an answer to brush away a concern, but they're not doing anything to validate it.
But then in the same week, he said things like they're going to tap into this federal pipeline of hydrogen that they're not even producing. None of it I don't understand. He talked about tapping into this. It's like this clean energy federal pipeline for hydrogen. I don't know what that is. It's not been explained to me, but it didn't sound like they were making it.
No, and doing a pipeline for hydrogen, I don't even know if you could do one safely, because unlike gasoline and petroleum, that actually is very easy to contain, hydrogen takes an incredible amount of pressure and very tight storage containers, because hydrogen wants to get out. It's a very small molecule. And as you guys have seen, I don't know if you guys saw what happened in Norway when the hydrogen refueling station blew up. You think a battery fire is bad. Wait until you light hydrogen. I mean, that stuff is terrifying. The amount of energy stored in hydrogen is massive. And when it goes boom, it is like you will shake the earth.
But they're going to make their own, right, and sell it. But they're also going to give people free hydrogen for a while.
Yeah,
and I assume it's really expensive to make these stations because of what you just talked about, because of safety.
Correct. So yeah, so there's a great video by Interesting Engineering that I'm not going to include. I'm not going to include their whole clip because I don't want them to get mad at me. But they did a great breakdown, and I'll include a link in this description. They did a great breakdown highlighting, like, initially they're like, oh, look, hydrogen has all these benefits over electric. But then they dive into the real engineering and explain how expensive it is to build the storage, how much energy it takes, and all the components that are involved. And by the end, although you have something that seems like on its surface, yes, it's the most common element, one of the most common elements in the universe. Yes, NASA uses it for rocket fuel, but actually producing it, separating it from oxygen, water, separating it from water through electrolysis or whatever other source you want to do, then ultimately storing it, then transporting it from there into your vehicle gets very, very expensive, using a lot of energy, refrigeration, like an energy expensive process that by the time you get to consuming hydrogen and burning the hydrogen, because that's basically what happens, right? A hydrogen fuel cell burns the hydrogen in the case of the Nikola Motors truck, and then converts it into electricity that then goes into your motors. You're so much better off just doing straight battery electric. But it's why Elon called these things full cells.
But his claim is that they're doing this, right? They are doing this process at a fraction of what other people can do it for, and that's how they're going to make their money. Like that's their breakthrough. Is that correct?
Yes.
But they won't say they're real light on the details other than the number.
To me, there's like 3 high-level super red flags that I just can't get over. Number one, and we covered this last time on our episode, the way they IPO, this reverse IPO, the way the CEO cashes out, essentially, steps down as CEO, becomes chairman, and says, now all we have is executional risk. So whoever this fall man is, he's going to hire some guy over the next 2 years. It's all going to crash and burn, and he's going to say, dude, I don't know what this guy did, but I set it up for like nothing but success. That's number one. And this is the whole, we're used to a CEO like Elon Musk that's like, I'm first in, I'm going to be last out. When you have this guy who's just like cashes out before the company makes even one product, goes and buys like a $20-30 million ranch in Utah or whatever. It's just like, and then the other 2 major things that really bother me about this company is I love how Tesla, the way Tesla's been set up is it's like completely vertically integrated, right? Circus act, right? They're like, voila, like we could do all this stuff. And then the most important thing that's a red flag that I just can't get over, that I think this is going to be the downfall of Nikola, is when it comes to trucking, to semis, these are cars that are on the road basically 24/7 except for maintenance. So it's all about your OPEX, operating expenses. Mm-hmm. And at least from what I'm seeing, current prices are not these like imaginary, hydrogen prices that Trevor is talking about. When you compare a Nikola to a Tesla, it's about the Tesla semi is about 6 times cheaper. Using electricity to charge up a 500-mile range semi is around $120 roughly. If you use like 12 cents per kilowatt hour, that's an average rate in the United States. But a 500-mile Nikola refueling would be $750 roughly. 6 times, not double. 6 times. Like, I don't understand. Like, you cannot explain that to me unless we're just completely wrong. And like I said, I would love for the CEO to come on our podcast and set me and Eli straight. Yeah. Maybe we're missing something.
You brought up something about vertical integration too, which is that there's clips of him that we didn't even show in this video, where in one clip he talks about they're the most vertically integrated company ever. And then like on another clip, he talks about how building your own factories is stupid and they don't know how to build their own factories. So they're going to have all their manufacturing done by third-party partners. In fact, he has one that he talks about how they're going to use an OEM to do everything for them, to build the car, to service the car, to maintain the car. And when he was questioned why, and he's like, well, we have the Nikola brand.
Yeah.
Well, what? Brand is something that is value and recognition by consumers. You can't have brand before you have consumers. Go ahead.
That's the other part that doesn't work for me. I don't understand between using a dealership network, using somebody else to do the service, using somebody else for sales, using somebody else for production. What's left for your profit margin? It seems like that's a lot of people undercutting it, because they all need to make money. Service needs to make money. The dealers need to make, and then people aren't doing this for free. They're not going to produce it for free for you. And if you don't have all of that under your roof, how are you profitable? What are you, just based on your truck is really cool and they're going to buy that? Or
and considering we know that battery electric vehicles are very expensive to make, so much so Legacy Auto with the current dealership model is struggling to be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not like, and again, they're making it for themselves in their current supply chain, right? They're plugged into this dealer model.
Yes.
And a lot of them are struggling to sell them at a profit. And iPace a number of times in the US has been discounted below cost. Like, they're having a hard time making it profitable, their own dealer model. How is a third-party company who's licensing their brand going to make money off going through a model that even legacy manufacturers are failing to be profitable at, and they're delivering it through their own chain?
Well, and then another thing was autonomy. He said that every truck would have all of the hardware for every autonomy suite so that somebody else could come in and provide the autonomy. So I'm thinking, it would have a bunch of LiDARs and cameras, and then somebody's going to come in and do that for you. How are you going to profit off of that?
Well, and let's highlight, here's where I think there's being some preying done on people who just don't know high technology. You can't just throw sensors in a car, load in software, and say, hey, you know autonomy. No. Like, I was going to say, like, when you're designing an autonomous system and you're accepting data feeds and you're looking at 3D machine vision, which, by the way, I've worked on all of these things. Like, I was working on facial recognition projects back 10 years ago, working with very high-end machine vision cameras. Like, I actually have a good experience and perspective on this. If you completely change the sensor package and completely change the perceptive angles at which your AI, your enhanced, self-driver and full self-driving technology is working at the world, your models and your neural net is not going to just be plug and play to solve the problem. The reason why Tesla has done what they've done, they've put all the cameras, they're all in the same places and all these things, is you can take that autopilot software and drop it into any Tesla, because every Tesla has the same sensors and the same view of the world. But as soon as you change the parameters in which you're visualizing data, your underlying software no longer is going to perform with the same reliability. So the whole idea that they can just throw in whatever sensors and someone's just going to come up with software that can just be plugged into it is technically nonsense.
That's literally what he said. And then what worries me is that the bullshit doesn't even match up with common knowledge about how these things work. Even if you have, I don't know a lot about autonomy, but I knew darn well that you don't have hardware. How do you afford to have all the hardware in there that you can just plug in? So even ignoring what you just said about that it's impossible, but let's say it was possible. How much would it cost to have a suite for more than one type of autonomy in the same truck?
You brought up a really great point. If you were going to actually try and go software agnostic and say our hardware could support everything, you would have to go with the most expensive hardware basically that you could find to account for all angles, right? Like, you'd have to account for, hey, this system's going to be entirely relying on high fidelity LiDAR, or this is going to result, like Tesla, on no LiDAR and use sonar and pure vision. You would have to put in hardware that solves for every redundancy, which means your entire system is going to be like one giant sensor. You could have tens of thousands of dollars in a sensor package. Great point. I didn't even think about that one.
He delivers this like it's a breakthrough thought. Like, all these other morons have their own suites in their car, but we're just going to have stuff. You just plug it in and you're good to go. I don't know how that works financially. For what would that mean? How would you pay that company? Then the price of the hardware, and then of course the software is not going to be possible. But this is the kind of thing that you find if you listen to the presentations.
There are companies, by the way, and not so much for semi that I know of, but there are companies like Apple, for example. There's been a lot of leaked information about their autonomous project. And what they're developing is they're going to be selling a hardware and software combo package that you would have to add to your vehicle. And you better believe that thing is going to be priced. That's going to be expensive. And you know what we're going to be selling to? People who want to take existing cars and turn them into autonomy for autonomous transport. It's going to be the future of personal transportation. It's going to be Uber without a driver. It's going to be Lyft without a driver. So they're developing the technology for enterprise for that, but it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be tens and tens of thousands of dollars per vehicle for the hardware up front, and it's going to have an ongoing software license. This is not going to be cheap to add on to the vehicle. But that's not the way it was presented, which if they had presented that, that would actually be totally acceptable. Be like, look, we're not going to put in any of the hardware. We're just going to buy the entire bit third later and charge you an upsell for it. That would have been okay, but that wasn't the way they said it. It was said as like, oh yeah, it's we got all the hardware. You just got to plug in the software.
Yes, it's it's wild. It is really wild. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know how that's revolutionary, and I'm not sure how that would possibly work. And I don't think that's me just being a skeptic. It's just reading things, thinking for a minute about this. Of course that won't work, but that's what he's selling, you know?
And Warbeck, any last words?
No, man, Earl, it's nice to finally meet you, I guess virtually. Hopefully we'll get to hang out in person at the next unveil or one of the Tesla events. I'm a big follower of yours on Twitter. Love your content, dude. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
And I got to say, guys, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for being with us on this special edition episode of the Tesla Geek Show featuring our good friend Earl of FrunkPuppy. We're excited to get back to regular programming. And actually on our next episode, we have a PhD battery expert video we actually recorded about 4 or 5 days ago. That video is going to drop on Monday. Stay tuned. I know everybody's hyped for Battery Day, but we got some awesome things coming out and some more insights on the solid state battery. So thank you again to Matt Holmes for supporting the Tesla Geek Show. And thank you to our audience for watching. Wait to see you on the next episode.